Well, welcome to Coffee with Job on Thursday morning, Wednesday evening, or Wednesday afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Notice our new flowers that were given by a friend to Annabelle, which was lovely. I heard an extraordinary interview, or read it rather, between Fraser Nelson of The Spectator and one of the professors from SAGE. Now, SAGE is the UK government advisory body. You'll see what this has to do with Job in a minute. And Fraser Nelson asked him, why do you just model basically negative outcomes? Why don't you do probabilities? Why don't you do a wider? And this is what the professor stated. He said, we've only been asked to model the worst outcomes. Isn't that appalling in so many ways? Government policy is always based on that. But I thought about that in terms of the gospel. You know, there's a sense in which sometimes Christians have been portrayed as doom and gloom. And in reality, we are coming with the most enormous hope. So this book of Job is just so full at one level of doom and gloom. And yet, there's just something beautiful and wonderful and the hope that comes in it. So let's take, for example, today's passage, Job chapter 30, and I'll read from verse 1. But now they mock me, men younger than I, whose fathers I would have disdained to put with my sheepdogs. Of what use was the strength of their hands to me, since their vigour had gone from them? Haggard from want and hunger, they roamed the parched land in desolate wastelands at night. In the brush they gathered salt herbs, and their food was the root of the broom bush. They were banished from human society, shouted at as if they were thieves. They were forced to live in the dry stream beds among the rocks and in holes in the ground. They brayed among the bushes and huddled in the undergrowth. A base and nameless brood, they were driven out of the land. And now these young men mock me in song. I become a byword among them. They detest me and keep their distance. They do not hesitate to spit in my face. Now that God has unstrung my bow and afflicted me, they throw off restraint in my presence. What Job is doing here is he's remembering his former days, the glory of his former days when the rocks flowed with cream, and he's bringing it forward to the current day. There's a contrast between the former days and the present condition. Dante talks about, I won't do it in Italian, but he talks about how there's no greater sorrow than to recall a time of happiness in misery. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. And what's happened here is honour has been replaced by mockery. Now they mock me. All his relationships have been destroyed. His relationships with God, his relatives, his friends, society, and with the poor. Once he was honoured by nobles, now the scum of society mock him. People treat him with contempt, and God has deserted him. People who are despised by society, whom he used to help, they now treat him with the contempt that they've been treated. There's the arrogance of the young here. There's the idea of the street gangs, the cruelty of the mob. Children can be so cruel. I've just recorded a video with my friend Jack, and Jack has cerebral palsy, and I'll put this online in a couple of weeks. But you know, the cruelty of being mocked for your disability at school by children. Well, that's the kind of thing that's been spoken here. The loss of dignity. He's a victim of false witness. I think of that in terms of the loss of dignity for the disabled as well. Or think of it in its most horrific form. The Jews herded onto cattle trucks, stripped naked, lost their dignity. Here we have a grown man reduced to senility, dribbling and incontinent. Maybe it's hard to see the image of God there, isn't it? We watched just a really powerful film, The Father, with Anthony Hopkins starring as an old man with dementia. Just incredibly, incredibly moving. Where's the image of God in humanity like that? Well, I think the image of God is there. I think what you also have here from Job is a righteous society replaced by decline in society. There's like an element of lament about the society as well. He's saying this is what it used to be like. Perhaps we feel that we're in an age when the foundations are crumbling and old certainties are losing their way. A happy family, ruined by death and loss, just the sorrow. So, if you like, that's the bad modelling. What's the good? The outcast and stranger, they were banished from human society. The child in the manger, outcast and stranger. Lord of us all, child who inherits all our transgressions, all our demerits upon him fall. I'm going to leave you with the Gallic version. Well, it originally is a Gallic carol. And I'm going to leave you with that. But just think of it. I mean, beautiful, beautiful words. Prophets foretold him, infant of wonder. Angels behold him on his throne. Worthy our Saviour of all our praises, happy forever are his own. He was cast out that we would be brought in. That's the Christmas good news. The modelling for those of us who are Christians is it always ends well, because it ends in glory, it ends with Christ, it ends in heaven. See you on Christmas Eve. Bye.
Far